Rain wept over Boise, Idaho, a September night so heavy the air clung to Noah Tanner's skin, but the wound inside cut deeper than the chill seeping through his thin jacket. 17. With lanky limbs and eyes too bright for the shadows carving his face, he stood shivering on the stoop of their sagging ranch house. Home, or what it had been until the clock struck 9. Inside, his father's voice roared, a logger's bellow roughened by years of sawdust and beer. "You're gay. You're a mistake. Get out." A calloused hand seized his arm, dragging him to the door, his mother's cry a broken thread behind. "Noah." "No!" As his father flung the duffel into the mud, socks and a cracked phone tumbling free. "You're not ours," he spat, and the door slammed, its thud a hammer on Noah's chest, locking him out of a life he had thought was his. Pine-scented hugs, his mother's quilts, a boy who had hoped truth could mend. He staggered into the street, sneakers sinking in puddles that mirrored Boise's dim streetlights, flickering, frail, like the faith he had pinned on them when he had bared his soul. His father's mistake gouged into his skull, his mother's hands clutching her rosary, a weight he couldn't shake. Her silence louder than his father's rage as the rain drowned her tears. The sting had been expected. Boise was all pickup trucks and church pews. No room for a kid like him. But he had dreamed they would see past it. "Hold him still!" They didn't. Rain lashed his face, stinging where his father's grip had bruised, and he turned toward the edge of town, past the mill, the river, a nowhere stretch his only refuge. His bag sagged, 2 shirts, a notebook, a photo of them at the lake, his world now, a wreckage under a sky too vast to care. The night swallowed him fast. He trudged past the mill's hum, its smokestacks looming like sentinels, and sank beneath a pine near the Boise River, needles sharp, roots cold against his back. His breath fogged, hands trembling as he hugged his knees, rain dripping off his nose onto the photo. His mother's smile, his father's arm around him, a lie washed blurry by the downpour. He had been their son, carving sticks with his father, baking bread with his mother, a quiet kid who had fit their frame. Now he was nothing. A queer cast to the curb, the river's rush a murmur he couldn't join. Headlights flared, trucks rumbling home, but no one stopped. Not the mill workers, not the preacher passing slow. Boise didn't bend, its pines whispered judgment. Its streets spat him out, and he sat, soaked and small, a vow clawing up his throat. "I'll make it. I'll come back and face you." The words burned, a spark in the dark, a promise to the rain. Darkness pressed, the river's song a cold lullaby, mills groaning, wind rattling the pines, his breath a cloud fading fast. He clutched his notebook, its pages warping. "I'll show them," pencil trembling as he scratched, ink smudging with wet and will. His father's roar, his mother's silence. The doors slammed, they had branded him gone. A speck in a town too hard to hold him. Boise stretched, lights faint, river endless, and he huddled there, a gay kid with no roof, no kin, just a vow to rise from the mud they had left him in. That heart-crushing start hit hard. Smash that like, share with someone who's been cast out, and subscribe to Heartstories. Noah's journey is just beginning. October hardened Boise, Idaho, into a cage of frost, the wind whistling through pines and past the mill's rusted hulks. But Noah Tanner felt a sharper edge than the cold slicing through his patched jacket. 2 weeks since his father's "you're a mistake," and his mother's silence exiled him from their Boise ranch house. He had become a ghost, 17, lanky and lean, his duffel a lifeline fraying at the straps. The city didn't see him, its pulse a drone of logging trucks and church bells, casting him out like a splinter it wouldn't mend. He had tried every shadow, park benches slick with dew, alleys behind the diner, a storm drain by the Boise River, each a fleeting hideout until fists or shouts drove him off. A gay kid branded invisible in a town too rough to care. Survival was a war. He shuffled down Front Street, hood up, eyes scouring for crumbs, hunger, a fist twisting his gut since a stale fry snatched from a trash can yesterday. Its grease a faint smear on his chapped lips. Faces blurred past, mill workers in flannel spitting tobacco, mothers tugging kids away, their glares cutting through him like he was dirt tracked in on their boots. A gas station clerk snarled, "No loiterers!" when he lingered near the dumpster, broom jabbing the air, and he bolted, legs shaky, breath fogging into an alley where the reek of oil and rot hung heavy. He clawed through a bin, pizza crusts stiff with cold, a half-smashed apple oozing brown, gulping it down, crouched low, frost dusting his hair like ash. Boise didn't spare its strays, not him, not the queer nobody who had lost his name. The streets bared teeth. He had claimed a bench in Ann Morrison Park, wood splintered. The river's rush a hum nearby when they came, 4 shadows in hoodies, boots crunching leaves. "Freak!" one barked, his voice a whip, and Noah froze. Duffel clutched tight. "Saw you at the mill. Queer don't sleep here." Another jeered. Hurling a rock, it grazed his temple, blood trickling warm as he stumbled. "Leave me be," he choked. Throat raw, but a fist cracked his nose. A kick slammed his gut, pain blooming red as he hit the dirt. "They're get gone!" A storm overhead. They tore his bag, notebook spilling, pages shredding under their soles, his mother's photo fluttering free, and one spat on it, grinding it into mud with a laugh. He curled tight, blood pooling under his cheek, their steps fading, park silent. River cold. A gay kid left broken under pines that didn't shield. Society piled on. Dawn crept, gray and cruel. When he limped to a diner, face swollen, hands numb, hoping for work. The manager, apron stained, eyed his bruise. "No jobs for bums, beat it," he rasped. "I'll scrub floors," but was shoved out. Not hiring queers. Door slamming as he hit the curb. He tried a mill. "Got papers?" Then a store. 2 scruffy, each know a brick on his chest. Boise's doors locked tight. He sank by the library, its steps a refuge, free, quiet, and scavenged a book from the trash. Business basics. Spine cracked, pages yellow. Under a street lamp's flicker, he read, words blurring through blood and frost, teaching himself what Boise wouldn't give. A spark stoked by his vow. "I'll make it, I'll face them." The river flowed dark, his nose throbbing, but he scratched notes. Start small, rise big, pencil trembling. A lifeline in the muck. Months bled into years, a haze of grit and grind. He scavenged burger scraps, a coat from a dumpster, slept where he could. Under bridges or in library nooks, cops rousing him with "Move! Trash!" every dawn. He had been a son, his father's axe in his hands, his mother's bread on his plate. Now he was this, a wraith dodging fists and scorn, branded wrong by blood and town. Nights, he hid in the park. Notebook a shield, "They'll see me." Ink smudging with sweat and will. Pages piling with plans, a business, a name, a way back. A mill worker tossed him a dime once. Poor kid, but most spat. "Fag!" Boise blind. Its pines whispering exile. He fought odd jobs. Dishwashing at a dive bar, saving coins, each dime a brick. His vow a fire. "I'll rise, I'll return." Blood crusted his lip one night, wind rattling his bones, and he sat under that lamp, book open, eyes burning, wondering how to climb when they all saw nothing, when every street buried him deeper. He pressed on, small and fierce, a kid they couldn't erase, not yet. April warmed Boise. Idaho, with a hesitant sun, the Boise River glinting through pines now lush with green. But Noah Tanner stood taller than the city's jagged past. 32, lean in a crisp gray suit, his name etched on a glass office door. Noah Tanner, CEO, Haven Solutions. 15 years since his father's "You're a mistake," and his mother's silence had cast him from their Boise ranch house. He had clawed from nothing, a gay kid once invisible, now a man who had forced the world to see. The streets had tried to bury him, park benches, fists, and frost, but he had kept his vow. Whispered under that rain-soaked pine, "I'll make it, I'll face them." Today, he had earned it, a life built from scraps, and he stood at the edge of a choice, go back, or let Boise fade. It had started in the dark, those first years a blur of survival, scavenging Boise's edges with a cracked business basics book as his torch. He had read under street lamps, pages yellow, ink smudged, teaching himself numbers, trade, and grit while washing dishes at a dive bar, the grease-stinging cuts from alley fights, coins piled slow, dimes from a mill worker, quarters from a bar sink. Each a brick and a dream he had scratched into his notebook. Start small, rise big. He had moved, Boise to Portland. A Greyhound ticket his escape, landing in a shelter, its cots creaking under men like him, lost but clawing. A janitor gig at a tech firm had come, mopping floors, eyes on screens, and he had listened. Learned. Stolen scraps of code from trash bins. Nights hunched over a library PC, building something from nothing. Haven Solutions was born, a platform linking homeless kids to jobs. His first client a runaway he had fed. The boys' thanks. Man, a spark that grew. Success hadn't come soft. Portland had chewed hard, investors scoffing. A queer ex-bum? But he had pitched. Voice steady, his story a weapon. I know the streets, I can fix them. One had bitten, a gruff VC with a limp, tossing him seed cash. Prove it. And he had. Haven had bloomed. App downloads spiking, headlines buzzing, from homeless to hero. Boise had faded, its pines a memory. Its mill a ghost, but he had built. Offices rising, staff swelling. Kids he had once been now coding beside him. Forbes had called Tanner's Haven $1 million mission. His face on gloss, a suit replacing his hoodie. But the vow had lingered. A pulse under his ribs. I'll face them. Money had stacked millions. A penthouse with river views. But Boise had tugged. A scar he couldn't sand smooth. 15 years, could they see him now? Or was he still their mistake? The choice had come sharp. He had stood in his office, glass walls, Boise's skyline a postcard on his desk, holding that old photo. His mother's smile creased, his father's arm a shadow around him. His assistant had buzzed, board meeting expansion vote. He had nodded, but his eyes had stuck, 15 years of silence. No calls, no letters, just a vow echoing under pines. He had made it, Haven a lifeline for thousands. His name a beacon, but Boise had loomed, its ranch house a question. Had they changed? Did they know? He had traced the photo. Fingers steady, CEO, not astray, and felt it. A pull too strong to dodge. Book me a flight, he had said. Voice low. Boise tomorrow. She had blinked. Vacation? But he had shaken his head. No home. The word had stung. A vow turning real. A promise he had kept in the dark, now glaring bright. The plane had hummed. Portland shrinking below, towers glinting. His empire safe, but Boise had risen, pines sharp against the horizon. A town he had fled, pulling him back. He had gripped his bag, suit crisp. A new notebook inside, the old one locked in a drawer with its "I'll show them" scrawl. Haven had thrived, kids off streets. His millions proof. But this hadn't been triumph. Not yet. He had built a life. A name, a shield, each deal a brick, each win a step. But Boise had been the root. Its rejection the fire that had forged him. The photo had sat heavy, his mother's eyes, his father's grip, a past he had outrun but couldn't bury. He had sworn to face them, successful, unbowed, yet doubt had gnawed. Would they care? Could they bend? The plane had dipped. Boise sprawling below, mills, river. The ranch house a dot, and he had steeled himself. A gay kid turned Titan, wondering what waited under those pines. Landing had hit hard, Boise's air sharp, pines whispering the same old tune. The mills hum a drone he had once slept to. He had rented a car, black, sleek, a far cry from his alley days, and driven, streets unfurling like a map he had memorized in exile. The river had glinted. Park benches gleamed where he had bled, where he had vowed, and his chest had tightened. Success a weight he carried back. He had risen, code his rope, grit his ladder, but Boise had loomed, its silence a wall he would breach. The photo had trembled in his hand. His mother's quilt, his father's axe, a vow kept after 15 years, a return to face the ones who had cast him out. The ranch house had neared, fence sagging, pines taller, and he had slowed. Heart a drum, a man they had erased now knocking on their door. What would they say? He hadn't known, not yet. May bathed Boise, Idaho, in a gentle gold, the Boise River shimmering through pines thick with spring. But Noah Tanner felt a storm brewing beneath his ribs. 32, steady in a gray suit, his rental car humming down the familiar curve of Warm Springs Avenue. 15 years since his father's "You're a mistake," and his mother's silence had exiled him. He had returned, CEO of Haven Solutions, a name carved from grit, here to face the ranch house that had spat him out. The vow he had scratched under a rain-soaked pine. I'll make it. I'll face them. Burned bright, his success a shield. But Boise's air hit sharp, pines whispering a past he had outrun. The mill loomed, smokestacks faint. Then the street turned, and his breath caught. The house was gone. He slowed, tires crunching gravel where the fence had once sagged. where his father's axe had rested, where his mother's quilts had dried. A new sign stood, Hope Haven Orphanage, white paint chipped, letters bold, and beyond it, a sprawl of brick and laughter, kids darting across a lawn that had once been his. He parked, hands trembling on the wheel, suit tight against his chest. 15 years dreaming of this door, this fight, and it wasn't there. A woman emerged, 50s. Viri, glasses perched low, her clipboard swaying as she waved off a boy with a ball. "Can I help you?" she called, voice warm but edged, and he stepped out, legs stiff, photo creased in his pocket. "This used to be my house," he rasped, throat dry. "Tanner family, where are they?" She froze, eyes narrowing behind glass, then softened, too soft. A pity he didn't want. "You're Noah," she said, not a question. And his gut twisted. How did she know? "I'm Claire, run this place. Come inside." He followed, boots thudding on steps where he had played, now a porch for strangers. Kids' shoes lined the rail, voices echoing through walls that had held his cries. She led him to an office, small, cluttered, a photo of the old house framed, and sat, hands folding tight. "They're gone," she said, voice low. 5 years now, car crash. Both of them. "This," she waved at the room, "is what they left." He sank into a chair. Wood creaking, gone? The air thinned. Boise's pines a blur outside. "Left?" he choked, fingers digging into his palms. And she nodded, pulling a file, yellowed, edges worn. "After you left they broke. Sold the mill share. Poured it here, Hope Haven. Said it was for kids like..." She paused, eyes flicking to him, "like you'd been homeless, lost. Wrote it down, for the ones we failed." His chest caved. "Failed?" The vow flared. "I'll face them." But they weren't here. Just this brick tomb of their guilt. "They knew me?" he rasped, voice cracking. And Claire slid a letter across, his mother's script. Shaky. "Noah, we were wrong, wanted you back. Couldn't find you." The room spun, kids laughed outside. A ball thumped the wall, 15 years, and they had hobbled here, hawking their lives for this. He gripped the letter, ink smudging under his thumb. "Couldn't find you." A lie, or a truth too late. Claire leaned in, voice soft. "They'd sit out there, your dad, quiet. Your mom praying, said it was their penance, but never dared look, died before they could." Penance, the word sank. A blade through his vow. Success in his suit, millions in his name. And they had built this, a mirror to his haven, without a word to him. Boise hummed, river steady. Pines tall, but the house was ash. Their voices dust. His fight a ghost with no face. He stood, letter trembling. Claire watched. Eyes wet. "They'd be proud, look at you." "Proud?" He laughed. Bitter. A sound swallowed by the walls. Proud of a son they had erased. A kid they had left to rot? The lawn stretched, kids running. A girl waving, and he saw it, his pine, roots deep where he had vowed. They had changed, too late, and he had risen, too far. The truth hit, sharp. Splayed, a home vanished, a guilt he couldn't touch. May lingered over Boise, Idaho, with a tender dusk, the Boise River catching the last gold through pines swaying soft. But Noah Tanner stood rooted, 32. Suit rumpled, his chest a knot as he gripped his mother's letter in the dim office of Hope Haven Orphanage. 15 years since his father's "you're a mistake," and his mother's silence had cast him out. He had returned, CEO of Haven Solutions, a vow kept only to find his ranch house gone, its bones reborn as a refuge for kids he had once been. Claire's words echoed. They died 5 years back. Left this for their guilt. And the letter trembled in his hand, ink faint. "Noah, we were wrong, wanted you back, couldn't find you." The truth sank, sharp, heavy, a home lost, a regret he couldn't face. He stepped outside, Boise's air cool on his face. Kids chased a ball across the lawn, their laughter a thread through the dusk. The pine he had vowed under now a sentinel over Hope Haven. The letter burned. We were wrong. His mother's shaky hand, his father's shadow behind it, a plea penned too late. Claire followed, glasses glinting. They sat here, your dad whittling. Your mom praying, said it was for you. In their way. For me. He stared, benches where he had played, a swing where his mother's quilt once hung, now a haven for strays, built from their mill money, their shame. 15 years he had fought, alley blood, Library nights, Haven Solutions, and they had fought too. Silent, turning his exile into this. His throat tightened. Anger. Grief. A flicker he couldn't name. Success his. There's a mirror he hadn't sought. The kids swarmed. A girl. 10. Tugged his sleeve. You the boss man? Her eyes shone. Hair wild. And he nodded. Voice catching. Something like that. She grinned. This place rocks. Got me off the street. Off the street, like him. Under that pine. Bleeding for a vow they'd never hear. Claire whispered. They'd watch kids like her, hoped you'd come. Hoped? He clutched the letter. Couldn't find you. And saw it. His father's axe sold. His mother's rosary traded. A penance carved in brick. Not words. He had faced them. Dust now, and won. His haven 1,000,000 lives saved. But this hit deeper. A legacy they had left. A wound they had tried to mend. Too late to heal. He drove back. River fading. Boise's lights a soft hum and stopped at the office. Letter on his desk beside Forbes. Wrong stared back. 15 years lost. No doorstep fight. Just this quiet gift he couldn't return. He called his team. Fund Hope Haven. Full support. My name on it. A boy's voice answered. His assistant's kid. Interning. For real? He rasped. Yeah, for them. For me. He hung up. Dusk settling. Haven Solutions would grow here. Boise strays his kin now. A legacy stitched from their guilt and his grit. The pine stood in memory, vow kept. Pain unburied, and he leaned back. Letter creased. A gay kid's rise now tied to their fall. Night fell. Boise's glow a blanket, river steady. Hope Haven a beacon where his house once stood. They had changed, hobbled by regret. Building what he had built, yet never found him. Never spoke. He had risen, code his axe. Will his quilt, a titan from their trash. But this truth lingered. They had tried. Failed. Left him this. He had funded it. His millions their echo. A forgiveness he didn't voice. A past he wouldn't release. The letter sat. Ink faded. Wanted you back. And he stood. Boise his. A man who had turned their no to yes. Their shame to home. This ain't just a win. It's pain rebuilt into purpose. Can you forgive what's gone? Tell me below, if Noah's truth shook you. Hit that like. Share with someone who's risen from ashes. And subscribe to Heartstories. We're alive because of you.